Welcome to Dads and Dollars podcast with your host, Stanley Funches, certified financial planner, business owner, author, speaker, and father of three. Listen as Stanley shares his valuable insights around fatherhood and finances gained from over 20 plus years of experience. You'll hear stories, lessons learned, and the ups and downs he and his guests have encountered on their journeys as fathers, professionals, and business owners. These shared lessons will help provide you a path for financial independence while celebrating the challenges of being a dad. Thank you for joining the conversation. Here's your host, Stanley Funches.
Good day. Welcome to Dads and Dollars, the podcast where fatherhood and finances are woven into many life topics. My name is Stanley Funches. I'm a certified financial planner by profession and a father of three in this thing called life. We are glad you can join us for season 1, episode 26. And in this episode, we're going to recap our first season of Dads and Dollars. But first, we're going to talk about vacations. So let's get started. All right, so it's summertime, and it's been one long 12 months, year since we started the podcast. But now it's summertime. It's been a long year already. So it's time to take a break. And I know many of you, probably are out for the summer. Kids are not out of school, or kids will be getting out of school, and you're thinking about your summer vacation plan. So we thought we would take a little time today in our last episode for the season to talk about summer break and summer vacations. As a kid growing up, my family, we didn't go on many vacations, but the ones we did are really, I have very distinct memories about them. And it was definitely a fun time to go any place with your family. And so as you grow up and as I became a dad, having those type of vacations and experiences for my kids was very important. So when we start having children, I was like, hey, we're going to have this summer vacations, and we're going to do things and create memories. So when the kids were very young, I think their mom and I, we went somewhere, and some kind of way we got kind of cornered, and we got sold a timeshare. We purchased a timeshare, and I know many of you are probably like, oh no, why did you do that? And I can tell you, it sounded like a great idea at the time, but it really worked out for about 7, 8 years. So probably from the age of my daughter being 6 or 7 to the time she's probably about 12, 13, 14. She's my oldest. We took some really good trips, great vacations. I mean, we went to Disney World a lot. We traveled to the DC area, various beach towns. Now the timeshare is probably not something I would recommend, but for those years, we wouldn't have went to those places without having the accommodations. I did a great job, I must say, pat myself on the back early on negotiating to have a higher level of status for those first 6, 7 years. Now, after that, it's been kind of shaky, but those first years created a lot of memories. We had great trips, and I say great memories, but the kids don't remember very much, so I don't necessarily know if it was worth it in the end. But we had some really great times and great memories. So, when we think about vacations and we try to think about it from a financial perspective, so some of the nuggets I would try to leave with you guys as my experience as a financial planner, talking to clients about their vacations and experiencing vacations on my own. Some of those things that could be deemed as, pointers, things you might want to just take and put in your toolbox as you guys are preparing for your vacations or even thinking about vacations in the future. One of the things that helps many of my clients when we're talking about vacation is to have a bucket of money, a goal. And, some people will call it a sinking fund, right? Where you have it set aside just for vacations. And, some of my clients, they will sit down and say, hey, we're going to spend $4,000 a year on 3 trips. Okay. And, they would go about setting the money aside on a monthly basis for that. And I think that you should, kind of dedicate an amount or a goal that you want to do, especially when you have small children or a growing family that you want to set aside for vacations. and put that money aside monthly. So if you haven't done that in 2023, once you finish your vacations here, start setting money to the side for 2024 so that when your vacation season starts, that you have those dollars set aside. There are some good tools out there. I mean, you could probably Google a bunch of them, but one that I haven't used personally, but I've heard Digit is a really good tool to kind of save throughout the year for specific vacations. And even if some people put bonuses aside, any extra dollars that come in from other sources. And then one other quick thing that I had one client do, and they basically did, whether it was the annual garage sale or they would just look through the house and every year they would invariably go and try to sell something on Facebook or wherever these venues where you sell items and raise $200, $300, $400, $500. So things they didn't no longer need at the house, they would try to sell those things to raise money to, again, specifically for their vacation. So, maybe that from a financial perspective, think about how do you raise the funds for the vacation. And those are just some good little nuggets. The time of the year. So off-season travel, I mean, I'm sure many of you have heard of that, traveling when, the specific location is not in season. And that has its pros and cons. You probably should Google your desired destination once you pick it out and figure out when those seasons are. And that will help you in your determination of, whether you even want to travel, because they'll tell you the pros and cons of that season. If it's off season, what you can expect. But for me, the money being the cheaper lodging, cheaper food, most of the time cheaper flights, they're great reasons to travel in the off season. But they're not the two best reasons for me. One is it's less crowded. I don't like crowds. So I want to travel somewhere where it's less crowded. And if you're traveling through the off season, then a lot of times you get a less crowded area. Then I like to stay in nice places in certain destinations and have where they're more available. So you get more availability because there's less people traveling as well. So the price of the lodging may be lower, but to me, having the availability of types of rooms in the type of hotel or any type of lodging that I want to stay in and having my choice is a very important thing for me. So again, traveling through all season, yeah, cheaper lodging, cheaper food, cheaper flights most of the time, but you also get those intangible things that may mean something to you. Again, less crowded, more availability too. So you can think about it. So far, we talked about saving throughout the year and traveling in the off season. Number 3 would be, I get it all the time. How do we use credit cards for travel, right? So people use credit cards to pay for their travel, and then people use credit cards to throughout the year to get rewards. So let's talk about both of those. The first is using the credit cards for your travel. And that's why I kind of lean to the first thing that we said, which is save throughout the year, because NerdWallet had a survey recently, and they said 26% of people who use their credit cards for travel expenses, they won't pay that balance off when that first statement hits. So they're going to get hit with interest charges. So I lean to asking people to save up their dollars. And even if you put the charges on a credit card for convenience sake because you're not carrying cash, it's well and fine. But don't be like that 26% that doesn't pay that balance off. Go ahead and pay that balance off every year so you don't get hit with the higher interest rate. And we'll talk more about interest in just a second. So that's the caveat to using the credit cards when you go on travel. You want to make sure you pay off that balance. But then if we move into the credit card reward points, just a couple of things to think about. Most people don't really consider. I get a lot of people say, hey, I charge everything throughout the year because I want to get the points. I want to have points so that I can get the travel that I want and I don't have to pay the cost, whether it's the airline flight or the hotel. And I do those same things too. I use American Express, and American Express has a good point system. It can transfer to Delta, Marriott, and venues that airlines and lodging that I like to use. So I do get the whole sense of trying to charge things to get points. But again, you got to pay that balance off every month throughout the year if you're going to have that strategy in order to make it worth it. Well, a couple of things to be wary of is that the points can expire. So you want to make sure, depending on what credit card you're using, you want to understand the terms of those points, right? If they expire, what happens there? When is they going to expire? And then also the redemption value can go down too over time. So even if they don't expire, then if you're accumulating points and you're really not using them, a lot of them or whatever, the actual redemption value may go down. And so what I mean by redemption values, most points, and I'll just use this as an example. This is not all points, but they're usually 1 cent for every point. So in that example, if I had 100,000 points or 100,000 miles, then that could be the equivalent of $1,000, right? Now, not all credit card point system work that same way, but that gives you an idea. And so if they lower that 1 cent to a half a cent, then your points have now been devalued. They've gone from, if you had 100,000 points, in the first case, it was worth 1,000, but now it may be worth 500. So that redemption value, they tend to, over time, they don't increase it, they tend to lower it. So you have to be careful when you're building up your points to make sure that you're taking advantage of them and using them, and not necessarily holding them too long so you don't go to some type of devaluation there on your redemption value. A couple other things about credit cards and using credit card for rewards is that you typically have a higher annual fees and higher interest rates. I mean, that's how they kind of be able to give you those incentives to get the points, right? Is they charge you a little bit more for the card on an annual basis, and they'll charge you more APR, APY on the card as well. So now there are plenty of them that don't have annual fees, and they'll be great if you found a really good card with no annual fees, but they typically do charge you a higher interest rate on balances that you hold. So be careful, again, about carrying a balance on those cards that use points. All right. So number 4 thing about vacations and for you to think about is vacation rentals versus hotels. And it's amazing to me when I talk to a lot of friends that say, hey, they've never stayed in an Airbnb or a VRBO. I mean, there's still people out there who haven't tried these things. And, I can understand now they're not as attractive as they were 5 or 6 years ago. I mean, I could go and stay at a nice Airbnb 5 or 6 years ago and in a nice area, and it would be less than a hotel cost. Now, with all the different fees, which you have to make sure you consider, they have various fees on Airbnbs now, from cleanup to all those things, to make sure, and it's not just Airbnbs, but VRBOs and all these vacation rental homes that may make your costs higher than a hotel. So just be very, very careful about how you're looking at that. But I still find it convenient. I love the convenience of having a kitchen. I love having separate rooms to go sit in. I love being able to get locations that are, sometimes tucked in neighborhoods where there might be good things going on, as opposed to, being in a city center or with a hotel. So I love to get that variety when it comes to staying in an Airbnb, VRBO. It depends on how many people you have with you. Have all my kids with me. Everybody can have, we can get more than one room, but be in the same building. And so there's definitely some great convenience there. I mean, I know a lot of people say, gosh, I don't want to cook on vacation. But, a couple of nights a week where you have the fridge, you got the kitchen, save on beverage costs, save on food costs, that makes a difference, and it may help you in your vacation budget as well. So definitely don't rule those out. Look for them. A couple of things I would say is make sure you read all the reviews. You know, if you maybe not all, but at least the vast majority of them. I read the good ones and the bad ones before I actually book the place, because you see uh, how responsive the owner of the property or the management company for the property is, but you also see what's going on in the area and neighborhood that may impact your stay. So one of my things I would tell you is make sure just don't look at the pictures, read the reviews and read them carefully. All right. Number 5 is airline travel. Gosh, airline travel is, since COVID and cutbacks there, it's been a nightmare. And I've had many delayed flights and canceled flights and, over the last year and a half. But, we still have places we want to go, and we're going to have airline travel is going to be an important thing. So when you think about airline travel, one of the tools that I've heard a lot about, and I've used it to view flights, are Google Flights. You can see Google Flights. You can see like what days you want to travel, and they give you some of the lowest prices that are flying out that day from your destination, from your current location to your destination. And it is a great tool to use to make sure you're comparison shopping, if not purchased a flight on Google Flights. So I would tell you definitely, if you're going somewhere and Google Flights would be a great thing. And so Expedia put out a report a few months ago as well, and said if you book on Sundays, you typically get a 15% discount on the price. All right, of your air travel. If you book 2 months out, sometimes you can save up to 40%. But don't book too soon, because if you go between that 4 and that 5.5 month time frame, if you're booking 4 months out or 5.5 months out, then you actually could find yourself paying a premium on that flight. So they're saying the optimal time, 60 days out, when you're going to travel, to try to book your flight, and you can get almost up to 40% off your flight. That number changes for international flights to about 3 months. So 3 months, is your time frame. You can save about 10% if you're doing a 3-month time frame. So, as you're going through this season and you guys are getting ready for vacations, just remember, try to, in future years, try to make sure you're saving throughout the year. You're not using credit cards for the actual travel. I mean, if you're using them for the travel, you can at least have the funds to pay them off. Think about off-season traveling. Would be a great thing. Examine your reward points. Know exactly what your value of your points are. What's the expiration, the terms, and again, try to pay off your credit card every month. Look into vacation rentals. If you haven't done it before, maybe just try somewhere local in areas where and you can be comfortable. But look into it and think about it as you go. It's not as great as it used to be, but sometimes it gives you an alternative to hotels. And when you airline travel, Google Flights, Expedia says, hey, there are certain times, Sundays, 2 months before, 3 months on international travel is when you can start looking at booking. And I hope you guys enjoy your summer vacations and create great memories. I know that as my kids were growing up, we did the same and enjoyed it. And I look forward to many more great memories on summer vacations. So have fun this summer. All right, since we talked all about this vacation stuff, what I am looking so forward to is taking this break. I've enjoyed this first season of Dads and Dollars with you all. We hope to do many more seasons with Dads and Dollars. We hope to grow the followership. So please let your friends know about us. You listen to us regularly. Please share us on your social media. Please like and follow us. We're on Facebook. We're on LinkedIn. You can visit our website and you can see all our social media handles. Please follow us, subscribe to us on the various where you listen to your podcast, where you're listening to this podcast now. Subscribe and please review us. And we've thoroughly enjoyed it. However, I'm gonna take about a month, maybe 6 weeks off We probably will be joining you guys back in August with new, fresh episodes. We're going to take some time off to recharge, to reformat, revamp, get our guest line up for next year. Hope to make it bigger and better. But just kind of a quick recap. Some of our more popular episodes, you can always go back and listen. We got an archive. Your friends can go back and listen to them. Season 1, episode 2 with William Taylor, business owners, tax planning, was our most popular episode. It had a lot of meat, a lot of great things in there for people who are thinking about owning a business or who are business owners. And we hope to bring more of that tax content in, not just for business owners, but high income professionals, how you guys can look at taxes. We also had Lance Zerline was another popular episode. Lance is our draft guru, former college friend of mine. He's done a great job in the industry, and he talked about fatherhood. He talked about a little bit about football and sports. And then one of our fan favorite episodes with the Loving Marriage with Dr. Alicia and Kenneth Cox. Episode 18 was that number. Great episode. Loving married couple. Alicia is a psychiatrist. Kenneth is the AD. And so that was such a great episode. And we've talked about everything from raising kids to blending families, faith, divorce, fatherhood, real estate. We've talked about a lot of stuff. And so we hope that all that stuff will give you information. Our goal at the beginning of the podcast was to bring you an experiencer podcast, right? Talked about there being influencers, but we wanted to bring it to you from an experience standpoint. And these are not people who are just talking about subjects. These are people who have education and life experience around these subjects that it can bring you a perspective as you go through these life challenges as well. So we want to thank you, all our guests who came on. We want to thank FeedSpot. So we had an announcement to make that we were voted by FeedSpot as one of the 25 best podcasts for young adults. And that was a very proud moment. They found our podcast. They voted us number 8 in the 25 best podcasts. Had some big name hitters in there. Everybody from Dave Ramsey to Susie Orman, and Journey to Financial Freedom podcast is also in there. And so we were really proud of that moment that they came out and put that FeedSpot ranking on us. So, and we want to thank you foremost for listening, for subscribing, for downloading, for listening to the podcast. We look forward to seeing you in season 2 in a few weeks. In the meantime, if you have any questions or you have any suggestions for how we can do things in the next season, just email us at ask@dadsanddollars.com, at ask@dads.in with the letter N, dollars.com. And we'll be sure to take that feedback as we go into next season. Again, thank you for joining us. Please rate us, review us, give us 5 stars, because we really would appreciate that. And you guys have a great summer.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Dads and Dollars. If you found the information shared today valuable, please share with your friends and family via your social media. If you have a request for a future financial topic for Dads and Dollars, please email us at ask@dadsanddollars.com. For further information on your financial journey, you may purchase The Quest for Financial Independence, 10 areas of your financial planning you should not ignore, by visiting our website, dadsanddollars.com. The opinions voiced in this podcast are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine which strategies or investments may be suitable for you, consult the appropriate qualified professional prior to making a decision. Individual tax and legal matters should be discussed with your tax or legal professional. Economic forecasts set forth may not develop as predicted, and there can be no guarantee that strategies promoted will be successful. All performance reference is historical and is no guarantee of future results. All indices are unmanaged and may not be invested into directly. Traditional IRA account owners have considerations to make before performing a Roth IRA conversion. These primarily include income tax consequences on the converted amount in the year of conversion, withdrawal limitations from a Roth IRA, and income limitations for future contributions to a Roth IRA. In addition, if you are required to make a required minimum distribution, RMD, in the year you convert, you must do so before converting to a Roth IRA. Asset allocation does not ensure a profit or protect against a loss. There is no assurance that the techniques and strategies discussed are suitable for all investors or will yield positive outcomes. The purchase of certain securities may be required to affect some of these strategies. Investing involves risk, including possible loss of principal. Guests and their companies are not affiliated with or endorsed by LPL Financial or Intellis Advisory Group. Securities offered through LPL Financial, member FINRA, SIPC. Advisory services offered through Intellis Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Intellis Advisory Group and Intellis Wealth Management are separate entities from LPL Financial.